There were a couple of reasons that I wanted to see this film, Behind the Candelabra. The first is that it's Steven Soderbergh's last movie. This is officially his last movie. And the second is that it was deemed apparently too gay to be given a wide theatrical release over in the States, which I think is a real shame. Now, this is the film starring Michael Douglas's Liberace, and it charts his relationship with his much younger lover in the late 70s and early 80s, Scott Thorson, played by Matt Damon. And obviously Matt Damon has worked with Steven Soderbergh before countless times on the Ocean's trilogy and The Informant as well. And this film, while it looks when you look at the trailers, it looks like it's going to be a sort of biopic. It really isn't. We enter this world through the eyes of Scott, played by Matt Damon. As he meets Liberace, they fall in love, they develop a relationship which I think lasted 6 years, and then the eventual sort of end of their relationship, leading up to the death of Liberace. Now, that's not really a spoiler because it's real life and this really happened. So straight away you look at this film and it's undeniably Steven Soderbergh that's made it. It's got his very distinct visual style that he's certainly honed recently, the same sort of visual style that you've seen in Contagion, very disciplined, and it has a very 70s feel to it, which I think really complemented this movie. You have Michael Douglas playing Liberace. Now, it's a shame, given that this film has not been released theatrically in America, that Michael Douglas will not be able to be nominated for an Academy Award. Now, I say that because essentially Michael Douglas is absolutely fantastic in this movie. I'm a fan of Michael Douglas, and I've actually just recently rewatched Fatal Attraction and Basic Instinct, and I really do love Michael Douglas. I think he's a terrific actor, and in this movie he disappears into the role of Liberace. He's almost unrecognisable, made in part possible by the makeup effects, which, just a quick side note, the makeup effects in this movie as Scott undergoes surgery at Liberace's request, and also Liberace's own surgery, the effects are amazing. But yeah, Michael Douglas really does inhabit the role. It's probably the best performance I've seen him give, and it is definitely worthy of an Academy Award nomination. And I wish that the sort of political and sociological landscape in America was such that this film could get the credit that it deserves, because he is absolutely amazing in that film. You forget you're watching Michael Douglas and you are watching Liberace. And coming from somebody who knows next to nothing about Liberace, I definitely enjoyed his performance. He's one of the best performances of the year so far. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And that brings me on to Matt Damon as Scott. Now, Matt Damon, when he begins the film, you know, he works with animals on films. He's an animal trainer. He wants to be a veterinarian, and he meets Liberace through a friend, and Liberace's quite taken with him. They start hanging out, and then Liberace wants to sort of hire him as an odd job man, and they end up falling in love and developing a relationship. Now, what I find quite interesting about their relationship is that it's never made clear whether or not they are actually in love, or if Liberace is using Scott the same way he's used countless previous boyfriends. Now, this is a man who was never openly gay, never came out. I mean, you look at him on stage wearing, you know, a fur coat that drowns the stage, and you think, how can anybody have ever not known that he was gay? But he was never openly gay, and he did have to work financially to quash rumours in the press about him being gay. But it's never made really clear his intentions with Scott, although it is sort of made clear that Scott is very much in love with Liberace. Now, Scott, through the addiction to diet pills and other drugs, you know, he takes a downward spiral in the second half of the film. And I have to say that Matt Damon, who is an actor, I really like Matt Damon as well. I mean, these are two terrific actors. Matt Damon is brilliant in this. The fact that he manages to play the drug addiction storyline, which is something, I know that this is real life, essentially, you know, this is a true story, this actually happened, but he manages to play it with so much subtlety that you almost don't see his downward spiral until, you know, he is in a really bad state. And I think that's a sort of testament to his performance. His performance is loaded with subtleties, which make it a very sort of naturalistic performance. That, coupled with the fact that he's essentially playing the part of a man who Liberace sees as his possession. You know, at times Liberace won't let him go out and see other people. I don't mean, you know, sexually, just won't really let him go out and just go and hang out with people. Also, Liberace pays for Scott to have surgery to make him look like Liberace. They have this really weird dynamic at one point in the movie that Liberace sees him as more of a possession, something to be played with. And I think that Matt Damon, by that point, you know, the character is so in love with Liberace that he'll do it. Matt Damon plays it so well. That it's both men are great in this movie, and I have to say that they both have great chemistry together. You know, the scenes where they share the scene, they are absolutely brilliant. So the two main performances are great in this. It also has a great supporting cast. Now, Dan Aykroyd is in this as Liberace's lawyer, and I felt stupid. I didn't recognise Dan Aykroyd until about halfway through the movie, because I didn't know much about this film going in. I didn't know he was in it, and I got halfway through the movie and I was like, oh my god, that's a Ghostbuster, like, what's he doing here? And I didn't recognise him, but that just goes to show how good Dan Aykroyd is in this. He's again unrecognisable, not just because of the you know, the cosmetic side of things, because he looks slightly different. Because once I realised it was him, I was like, that's unmistakably Dan Aykroyd. But he plays his role so well that you do not think of him as Dan Aykroyd. All the performances in this are very naturalistic and very well done. Matt Damon's downward spiral into drug addiction really is reflected by Steven Soderbergh in the aesthetic of the movie, and I think that really works very well. The film feels like a Martin Scorsese movie from the early to mid-90s. It feels a bit like sort of Goodfellas and Casino. It's the rise and fall, because while, you know, it's presented as sort of a biopic, I think, in the marketing, it's really not. We just sort of dive into these characters' lives just while they're in a relationship together, and then once that's ended, you know, we sort of jump back out. We only get a window into Liberace's existence. This is not a biopic. You know, we see the beginning of the relationship, we see the downfall of the relationship, we even see the legal proceedings afterwards, which I'm glad they did that, because I found that quite interesting. They reference Liberace's previous boyfriends throughout the film, and how he's had to sort of pay them off to not go to the papers about what they did together and all the rest of it. And I think it's quite interesting to see, you know, that side of things once their relationship is over. Behind the Candelabra really is the surprise movie of the year for me. I really, really enjoyed this film. It's got two great actors in it, giving some of the best performances of their careers. It's Steven Soderbergh, who is a director I have a lot of time for. Not everything he's made has been brilliant, but I do love a lot of his movies. Steven Soderbergh is on top form with this. Even though, you know, the budget is quite restricted, I believe that HBO put up some of the money to this and helped distribute the movie, and it premiered on HBO rather. You know, the budget does have its limitations. There's a scene where Matt Damon's character is on a jet, and the jet is actually a model, and it's shot really close up. But I loved that. I actually think the limitations in budget forced Steven Soderbergh to be more creative with this. So visually, moments like that are very distinct and actually very stylistic. And given the period in which it's set, they actually work very well. So the limitation of budget, I thought, was not a hindrance, was actually a good thing in this film. So, like I say, it's the surprise movie. I loved it from beginning to end. I would highly, highly recommend it. I think, you know, people should seek this out.